A parent should think very carefully before sending a daughter to one of the more gender-feminized colleges. Any school has freedom to transform itself into a feminist bastion, but because the effect on the students is so powerful, it ought to be honest about its attitude. I would like to see Wellesley College, Mount Holyoke, Smith, Mills, and the University of Minnesota, among the more extreme examples, print the following announcement on the first page of their bulletins. We will help your daughter discover the extent to which she has been in complicity with the patriarchy. We will encourage her to reconstruct herself through dialogue with us. She may become enraged and chronically offended. She will very likely reject the religious and moral codes you raised her with. She may well distance herself from family and friends. She may change her appearance and even her sexual orientation. She may end up hating you, her father, and pitying you, her mother. After she has completed her re-education with us, you will certainly be out tens of thousands of dollars and very possibly be out one daughter as well.
Let's go, lesbians.
We're coming for you.
Shut up and take my money. Like, oh, wait. You're telling me that there are secret force diking basements in the United States? Gimme.
Yeah, I should have gone to Smith. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Well, welcome back to Workers Lit, y'all's favorite podcast about the battle for the narrative, and apparently about force diking this week. Folks, we got maybe a record on our hands, I think, for the quickest returning guest. Of course, Jacob couldn't be here this week. He's out stealing feminism right now. Not sure what that's all about. We'll find out. But what we are about is we've got Talia Bhatt back on the show, host of Cracked Ivory. Seems like just yesterday she was here to talk about trans-feminism and all the challenges and hurdles that we face. And now we're talking about, what are we talking about?
Well, I guess me and my co-host on Cracked Ivory, we got a little bit tired of talking about bad books just on our own podcast. So I came over here to tell y'all, hey, have you heard of this interesting 1994 book by Christina Hoff Sommers, who is apparently involved in GamerGate? This 1994 book called "Who Stole Feminism?" And actually, I was the one who recommended the book to y'all. So, what do y'all think? Did y'all have a fun, enjoyable read?
I had no idea that it was from 1994 because the canards and complaints in this book, nothing has changed. Literally, this book could have been. I say this all the time, but this book could have been written yesterday. Like everything in this book. I mean, she'd be saying DEI and woke if she would be using different words, but I don't know, literally time is a flat circle. Also, I barely got through any of this book. I'm going to tell y'all right up at the top. I had a mentee bee this week, so this was not going to help. I will just probably talk less than I usually do. So really good luck for those listeners who think I talk too much.
What about you, Nora?
Well, so I was familiar with Christina Hoff Sommers because I was in college and in my idiot free speech absolutist phase around the time of GamerGate. And I do remember that she gained prominence during this time because she was speaking out in defense of, the savages that were stalking, harassing, threatening women in the games industry and the games journalism industry. Because this is her words. Oh, they're just defending a beloved hobby, and they'll always be, these people will always be quick to be like, oh yeah, we don't support the really odious aspects of this movement, but everything that leads up to it and enables it, of course, we're on board with. For which she earns the nickname Based Mom.
Very, very illustrious. And when she's not earning nicknames from the prototype social movements that would go on to basically become the alt-right.
Mhm.
Christina Hoff Sommers is working for right-wing think tanks like PragerU and the American Enterprise Institute. So
Mhm.
you know that this book is going to be a towering pillar of feminist history. And I'm being very sardonic right now. My voice is dripping sarcasm, but it is somewhat unfortunate that it is true that Who Stole Feminism, this book, this 1994 book that a lot of people probably haven't heard of today, but I think I can confidently state that it has had a larger cultural impact than a lot of actual works of feminism. But it's a little bit of a surprise as to how. We will drop the reveal later on. It will be a jump scare. But yeah,
Ooh, I'm excited. I'm so excited.
it involves popes.
Oh,
Really?
Well, the main reason that I had so much trouble getting through this book is that it's just the same thing over and over again. And this woman just seems like intensely annoyed by the most annoying people on earth, i.e., undergrads and intellectuals. I'm sorry, those kinds of people are annoying. If you're going to hang around them, you are going to be annoyed. I keep being like, girl, like it's extremely like found soup at the soup store. I went to this conference where everyone's hyper focusing on feminism, and I was very annoyed by how much they did that. It's maybe it's because I have a philosophy degree, so I am so used to a room where everyone just like takes something and takes it apart and looks at it and uses really intense language, but that has like really no bearing on real life. And it's like she can't do that. I'm like, maybe you should find another calling.
Well, to hear Sommers tell it, these people are in every classroom, in every school administration, and subtly and not so subtly shaping our curriculum in all sorts of completely unaccountable and unpredictable ways. Um, it's the same old fashioned canard of, yeah, these people are simultaneously like weak and can't hack it in the real world, but also they have all the institutional power you could possibly imagine. You know, it's tired to point it out, but we they
Yeah,
keep doing it, so here we are.
yeah, I'm gonna say this with like full venom. The so when you open up the book, we'll get into like the fundamental premise that Christina Hoff Sommers establishes in the opening and then discards immediately. But like I will say, with full offense in Venom, it is amazing just how much Hoff Sommers sounds like a New York Times journalist today, because we're basically like in order to like give a quick analog, we're basically doing the campus free speech crisis, but for 1994, right? That's like effectively what we're doing. Um, in essence, she is saying that these incredibly cringe and earnest feminists who want to do feminism, who want to make things better, they are erasing our big, beautiful traditional canon, and they are pressuring universities to be increasingly gynocentric. And actually, feminism is over, and not only is feminism over, it has gone too far. See, Hoff Sommers agreed with the respectable feminism of her past when she was young, and there were feminist intellectuals worth their salt who were actually advocating for things that matter. But now, all of these like spoiled young women who have never known as much hardship as their mothers, they don't have anything to fight for, and so they're just inventing causes and as a result, persecuting all the poor men on their campuses. And that sounds so familiar.
I love to persecute men on my campus.
Mhm, mhm. We're gonna build
Oh
a
no, me
campus
too.
just to persecute men on. Yeah, but it's the same arguments that she makes in like 1994. You can easily find today. Like everything is Hamas. Like there are sleeper cells like from Iran around every corner. Like we're constantly under threat here in the imperial core, where the core of like military hegemony and whatnot. We just always have to have an enemy to fight that somehow corresponds to whoever we happen to be trying to crush. I tell you what, like on the subject of like conservative institutions as well, like that she's part of, she name drops the National Academy of Scholars or the National Association of Scholars. One of the two. I don't really care what the A stands for. She says that yeah, this is the one the one association of like university professors of like people in academia pushing back against all the woke madness infesting schools. And you do a quick Google. Turns out this organization would go on to sit on the advisory board for something called Project 2025.
MCU Wong, hashtag it's all connected. How is it that the horrors of the modern day reactionary movement have been continuously engineered by the same dipshits in power, etc.? Good lord.
Yeah, turns out they were fine. They won that particular round. Like she brings up, it's a who's who of cranks and evil organizations in this book, which is what makes it so interesting to read in 2026, right? Like I was telling Talia, I was telling you the other day, right? This book reads like the gender version of the coming war with Japan, right?
Hmm.
Totally reverses the power dynamics at play. Totally calls like the reverse of what happens. But we'll get into it. I think we should start with the sort of false distinction that she draws. That's ruining feminism, supposedly, right? There are equity feminists like her, which is okay. Like she is of course a libertarian.
Hmm.
We'll get into more of the odious aspects of that down the road. But she's a libertarian. She just self-describes as an equity feminist, and basically what that means is, okay, are women legally on paper allowed to own property and businesses? Okay, cool, done. And she denies that we live in like a patriarchal society where men systematically benefit from our institutions and where women do not. The people calling out patriarchy she calls gender feminists.
Mm-hmm. And that's very interesting, isn't it? Like that specific choice of words. Like, okay, okay. In order to like contextualize this a little bit, there has always been a little bit of a sort of like philosophical sameness versus difference split when it comes to feminist epistemology, right? So some feminist scholars believe the idea or like the purpose or the point of feminism is to promote the sameness between men and women, to talk about the ways in which men and women are similar and therefore should be equal. And then there is the different school, which I'm not 100% sure if I'm sort of getting this part right, but like the different school is like the one that has always been sort of like more criticized within this paradigm, which is kind of what Hoff Sommers does here as well, where she says that the gender feminists are emphasizing the differences between men and women rather than the ways in which men and women are the same, and are therefore creating a politics of grievance. Like there have been a lot of feminists who've written about this, including McKinnon herself, who talks about how like the sameness versus difference split is kind of another like simple paradigm that sort of like elides what the true issue of like patriarchy and oppression and feminism is. Not super the point, but like the fact that like Christina Hoff Sommers chooses to call this gender feminism, the idea that these feminists have an ideology that is too focused on gender. Are ringing any bells?
Yeah, we discussed gender ideology when you were here on the show not long ago, right? That it was, and bizarrely, like a Catholic conspiracy to, not, today when we talk about gender ideology, right? It's, trans people like trying to turn your daughters into men and whatnot, right? Back in the day, what it meant was, oh my God, feminism seeks to overturn the exploitation of women for uncompensated labor.
Mm-hmm. So not only is like Who Stole Feminism kind of a little bit of a surprising artifact of history that shows how like the modern day New York Times columnist has basically been preserved in amber for the past couple of decades. But it is, in fact, Hoff Sommers' rhetoric over here is like maybe not the source, but it is the inspiration for Catholic ideologues like Dale O'Leary and dear Pope Ratzinger, who authored the Ratzinger Report, and the ideas that Hoff Sommers peddles in here would go on to be sort of like recast and refined into the Catholic conspiracy of gender ideology as the feminists' mission to destroy the difference between men and women, and therefore destroy, I don't fucking know, God, the church, civilization itself. All of those things sound rad to me, by the way. I'm not denying the allegations, to be clear.
No, we need to lean in. We need to double down. Yeah. Well, and she does take time to. She stays out of she stays too much out of the religious angle, but like the pull quote up at the top, right? She does mention that look, your daughter's gonna discard, not just the morals you raised her with, but the religion you raised her with, right? For some reason, she's very, very concerned about that, right? Yeah, all kinds of bizarre chauvinisms in here that seem orthogonal to the point she's making, but again, not if you consider it in the greater context as you bring up.
Yeah, and it's a little bit strange, right? So the thing is that like there's a reason that this sort of reversal is popular and has always been relatively popular as a tactic employed by people like Hoff Sommers. Sorry to do a little bit of like identity politics here, but like I mean, what kind of a woman is Christina Hoff Sommers when compared to the women that she is most often naming and shaming in the various chapters of the book, and that also is something that like needs to be called out on. Like I will just say, I didn't realize that you could like so succinctly communicate the like feeling you get watching an SJW cringe compilation in text. I was like, holy crap, this book is a certain kind of YouTube video from the future, sort of like distilled and alchemized into words. It was shocking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if r/Tumblr in action and r/Kotaku in action was a book, this would be it,
Yeah, I don't know. There is this sort of, and I know I keep bringing it back to intellectuals. Like this woman is clearly just a fascist, and sometimes that's like the answer to everything. But there really is this like desire among academics to find a. I mean, like this is so obvious. I feel sort of sheepish saying it, but like there's this deep desire to find one law that we can sort of have everything encompassed under, like a law of gravity, a law of thermodynamics, a law of feminism, a law of gender. And it's like nothing is ever that simple, even in science, but definitely not in social science. Like in philosophy, well, in ethics, like one of the ethical theories was the Kantian ethical theory of deontology, which is like the right thing is always right in every circumstance and it doesn't matter. Literally, so if a man somebody comes to you and is like, I'm being chased by a murderer, will you hide me? And you hide him, and then the murderer comes and asks you if the guy is there, you are morally obligated to tell him the truth because lying is wrong. Like that is deontology. And obviously like that is an absurdist example, but like that seems to be what these people want. They're like either women and men are completely equal or men completely subjugate women. Like there is nothing in between. It is either like Sharia law or like absolute luxury space communism.
Yeah, because it's kind of funny, right? Because like I will say one thing about the kind of women that like Hoff Sommers repeatedly talks about in this book. They are mostly white and affluent, like herself, but like lest you get the impression that she is not punching down at any feminists in this book, whenever she mentions like minorities or marginalized people or even multiply marginalized people, it sounds like she's doing the like reactionary Tumblr caricature thing. Like, oh, this meeting of feminists isn't accessible enough and inclusive enough. What about the Muslim wheelchair using black disabled, like it starts off like that, and so you also get the very least like you said, it is like kind of sufficient to just call her a fascist, to like point out what her ideological commitments are and let that speak for itself. But there's also like a very real psychological motivation behind this that I think is twofold. One is that like Hoff Sommers identifies way too much with the institutions being critiqued, right? Like, okay, sure, she's a woman, but she's like an elite woman, right? She's white, she's heterosexual, she's married, she's well off and educated. She has more, she stands more to gain from defending these institutions from any attack than she does with standing with other women who might rightfully feel that liberation hasn't gone far enough.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one thing. And then there's the other motivation that comes out most clearly when she's doing her little like SCW cringe compilation stuff, which is she feels that the movement is getting less white and less straight and less respectable, and therefore it needs to be shat all over.
Mm-hmm.
And that comes out so clearly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even, and of course, like her fellow like white academic, like well-off women don't come out unscathed. There's a bit early on where a colleague of hers, Carolyn Heilbron, who's voluntarily retiring from Columbia University at this time, and who's talking about women's state in this world, which she describes as a state of siege, right? Says Sommers. Though she had long held a prestigious chair in Columbia's English department, Heilbron made it clear she felt beleaguered there, but she had survived. In life, as in fiction, she told the New York Times, women who speak out usually end up punished or dead. I'm lucky to escape with my pension and a year of leave. 32 years ago, I'm putting on my Sommers voice here, there were no tenured female professors in Columbia's English department. Now 8 of its 32 tenured professors are women, and a majority of its junior professors are women. According to the Times, such facts do not impress Heilbron. Female doesn't mean feminist, she snapped. Right? And like,
wow, 8 whole professors.
Right, and like right away you see Sommers' penchant for tone policing, right? She snapped, right? You see exactly the sort of caricature she's drawing for you. But also, like, yeah, Heilbron is right. Like, look at Erica Kirk, for a recent example, in the public eye. Look at any number of slave-owning white women. There's any number of women in positions of power who, A, are perpetuating the oppression that of the institutions that they're in, or B, like their very presence, in fact, if they are like trying to reform things and make things better, their very presence is not proof against discrimination. Their very presence is not proof against harassment.
I wonder why Christina Hoff Sommers might be invested in the idea that like a woman can just be feminist by just kind of standing there and doesn't have to actually demonstrate any feminist beliefs or commitments.
Yeah, there is this sort of, I think, like concept drift of feminism that I think I definitely noticed back when I was, in the Tumblr wars in my early 20s. Back when I was stupid and annoying too. This idea that like you are a feminist just by being a woman and like doing things. Or like making choices, like this idea of like if a woman wants to get married and be pregnant in the kitchen, barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen, and like be like brought chocolates all day, or that's feminist because she chose it. I'm like, no, it's not. Like it is a perfectly like if you want to do that, God preserve it for you. Godspeed. However, feminism is a theoretical. It is like it's a concept. It's like it's an academic concept. So it's
a discipline. Mm-hmm. It's a thing you actually have to at least do something.
Right. It has like a series of maxims that you have to follow. It's like being a Christian. Like there are certain things that you have to do in order to be feminist. And I think that this like sort of like girl boss feminism sort of created this like, well, we're all feminists really. And it's like, sure. Okay. But like, you are actually you're not. But and that's, if you don't want to be, that's fine. But stop watering down the concept in order to include everybody in it.
Yeah, and that's like a very like pertinent point on which to bring this up. Again, in the beginning of the book, Hoff Sommers is very dedicated to the idea that she is a feminist. She like claims this, I think, all over the preface. Maybe like by even as early as the first chapter, she stops going so hard on it as it becomes very very clear that like this is effectively a burn book for academics she doesn't like. But like in the very beginning, in the parts of the book that like people are most likely to read when they check it out, Hoff Sommers is very, very adamant on the idea that I am a feminist. I am just a feminist in the tradition of the old feminists who were serious and intellectuals and not screeching spoiled harpies who have never known hardship. I'm a classical feminist, that kind of beat. And it's like, I mean, on in one sense, this is like this kind of epistemic vandalism is something that like really every reactionary tendency loves to engage in, just like watering down the meanings of terms, trying to take away tools of organization and resistance away from marginalized populations. That is just kind of a thing that reactionaries do. On the other hand, I do think that like a lot of these reactionaries, whether we're talking about like people who push race science in the newspaper while avowedly declaring themselves not racist, like you could be a little Sartre with it. You could be like, oh, the anti-Semite knows that his words mean nothing, that he is not bound by words. And honestly, in the modern day, having like been able to like peek into spaces, online spaces where like reactionaries are just talking to each other and like there are no outside observers, I think Sartre was giving them too much credit. A lot of these people are dumb and they do believe that they aren't bad people, and they like are struggling to maintain that level of high cognitive dissonance, like holding on to it for dear life, because they really do have to think, I am a good person and I don't have conservative beliefs, but like y'all are annoying.
Yeah, the thing that like I think Sartre, to do Sartre quarter, the thing that I think he was really cooking with in the portrait of an anti-Semite or whatever thing, it's not called that, picture of Dorian Gray, picture of an anti-Semite. What he was really cooking with was that a lot of bigotry is a combination of jealousy and sexual attraction. I was like, all right, King, go off. I feel like that's so true.
Leave it to the French guy to like get to the psychosexual heart of the issue. Well,
yeah, I mean, like Simone de Beauvoir's like long-term lover, of course.
We've been hard on the French lately on this show, and we will continue to be so. We get here the fundamental contradiction though in what she's saying, right? Because y'all are correct. Like she's trying to redefine like discipline itself, right? Because she has plenty of smoke for like at one of these conferences, she's like, yeah, all these women got together in like an anger session. Somebody was introduced as like an expert on anger. Like they talked about like channeling their rage into their writing, into their work. And it's like, I mean, first of all, 35 years later, right? The Epstein files are being released to zero fanfare, or more accurately, only fanfare and zero action, right? Hashtag Me Too has been killed and buried, right? I wonder why women might be angry, A. But like B, like it's the concept of action itself that like seems to really be a bugbear of hers, right? When she here on page 21, right? When she's like, oh, Gloria Steinem believes that things are so bad for contemporary American women that we might have to consider setting up centers for training political organizers. And like, I'm sorry, like, do you want people to be trained in their particular field or not? Right?
No, apparently.
Exactly.
I mean, I know I just keep bringing it back to this, but like this idea of like, oh no, they're having a session at a college and they called it something annoying. I'm like, yeah, that's what college is for. Like they call things symposiums. I don't see any wine. I don't see any dancing boys. How can you call this a symposium? Like, come on, symposium. Like,
this is like very clearly the least of Christina Hoff Sommers' sins, but like. It makes a lot of sense to me that in like 2014 or 2016, I forget exactly when GamerGate was, being slung around. But like it makes sense to me that like this woman would crawl out of her hole in order to like try to get the adulation of the youth, the fascist youth. But like there is such an actual like deep-seated insecurity here of like, well, I'm old and a relic now, and like, is it the youth who are wrong or is it me? Am I actually not as radical as I thought I was, or are the youth just shrill babies screeching about nothing?
Why does it always like boil down to cool girl syndrome? Like wanting to be one of the cool girls? That's like, I mean, I like that is an aspect of my personality that I constantly have to rein in. Like, I am always like, I'm not like other girls. There's like a part of me that is like, I'm not like other girls. And I have to like be like, shut up. Yes, you are. But like there is this desire to be like, yes, admired by men. And I think that's like a thing that it's hard, especially if you're attracted to men. I think that's a hard thing to shake. Like, and a
Yeah.
very easy way to be admired by men is to feed their egos by agreeing with them that they are oppressed. And in many ways they are oppressed because patriarchy oppresses everybody. And that's like the other end of every time she like rants about patriarchy is I'm like, radfems and fascists are always like leaving out the part of patriarchy, which is like feminists who talk about patriarchy. Most of them are willing to concede that patriarchy is also very harmful to men.
Her next major book on this work is, of course, called The War Against Boys.
Oh my god.
Of course it fucking is. Okay. Oh my god. Like, okay, I'm gonna slight tangent me, but like this always happens to me where like I've written 2 books now, right? Trans Rad Fem and Brown Trans Luz, and I'm just like a part of why I do that is not just because like I'm a writer and it's like good to sort of like nail down the specificities of trans feminism and things like that, but also because like it's so tiring to have like the same argument over and over again when I can just like, okay, look, I've written on this, I have expressed myself in words that I thought about in front of a computer for hours on end. I have said it there better than I could in this conversation, and then I go out. And then there's other stuff, and I was just like, oh god, I still have so much to write. I still have so much to write. Because okay, so okay, let's sort of like concede that like this sort of like grievance that a lot of men who are in the modern male grievance movement, and were in the version of that all the way back then, right? That there is a kernel of truth, and like women like Hoff Sommers play on that, where they admit this system of gender, bell hooks, this system of gender doesn't serve men either, or like it is also harmful for men. It is also restrictive towards men. There is a degree to which masculinity is in and of itself harmful for those who are required under patriarchy to uphold it. That is true. And then when people try to talk about exactly how patriarchy harms men, everyone loses the plot and loses their minds, because the only thing that they know and they remember is like, well, men have to be stoic. Bobbathy can't cry. Don't you feel bad for Bobbathy? Bobbathy can't cry. And it's like, okay, I do feel bad for Bobbathy, but also, can women cry? Because we're getting into this interesting thing where like there has been good work on it, adequate, acceptable work on this. Sorry, I'm a bitch. Like Jane Ward's book, Not Gay, is something that I want to write about more in the future. That actually like is discovering and highlighting in this very comprehensive way that how men treat each other, under patriarchy. How male homosexuality itself is founded on a certain kind of violence that men perpetuate against each other constantly, that is informed by the patriarchal norms that they live under. And what is tinging the violence that men do to each other? It's misogyny. It's misogyny. It's always misogyny again. Because the part that we all forget when we decide to do the part of feminism where we are acknowledging the harms of men, where we're talking about why male victims of assault are shamed and unmanned and cannot speak up. When we actually try to talk about the issues particular to men, what people want to do is people want to forget women entirely. People engage in these politics specifically to create an equivalence between the treatment of men and the treatment of women. But the thing is, there isn't one, because even in situations where you remove the woman, even in situations like frats or the army, where you have mostly men around each other and they're behaving in very patriarchal ways, the violence that they commit still is motivated by misogynistic logics. Because fundamentally, it's not that men can't cry. It's not that there are two separate rules for men and for women. That's kind of the surface level analysis of it. The problem is that men cannot act like women without incurring usually violent social consequences. Ask me how I know.
Yeah. So, I mean, I agree with you. I think that, like, the thing that I was sort of coming around to is that, and this is sort of beyond the remit of like this podcast or this book or anything, is that, like, I think so much at the end of the day, like, I think so much of the grievance that these kind of men feel, and a lot of these like cool girls feel on behalf of men, and I can sort of like shamefacedly include myself in this sometimes. Like, I sometimes will be the person in the room who's like, well, men also, have a hard time. But and I'm a game writer, so I work in games, and so GamerGate has had, like, an irrevocable, like, sort of impact on my life and my work and how I relate to people around me. But I think that there is like this it's like we're all suffering together under capitalism, and men see feminism happening, and they're like, but I, like, you telling me that I have all these privileges, but I feel so bad. And it's like, yeah, dog, we all feel bad. But so they're like, so people care about and this is like just a very surface level understanding of this, but like, I think so many young men who get captured by these forces are like, everybody cares about women's pain, even though that's not true. But like, everyone talks about mansplain, but why does no one talk about man's pain? Like, I feel like shit, and you're telling me that I'm privileged? How is this? Must be a lie. I must not be privileged.
It's what no class analysis does to a motherfucker. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So. Okay. No. This is very exciting. I'm so glad you said those things. Okay. So these so I'm gonna say something, and it like might be a little bit half baked because these are essays in the future, not the past. But like I get to trial them over here. Okay. I'm so glad you said that about this like perceived idea that like feminism is like something that is like taking away from men, right? Which is why in the 90s you can actually see like Christina Hoff Sommers and like other women like her, because obviously there were other women like her, sort of like kind of like playing towards the sentiment, right? Trying to do this cool girl thing, like, oh, I'm an equity feminist, so I also care about men. That was a liberal feminist refrain, throughout the 90s, the 2000s, early 2010s. That is a very serious liberal feminist. That is a very core idea of liberal feminism. Again, Bell Hooks' The Will to Change came out in, I believe, 2003, 2006, somewhere in that. And that was, in and of itself, a work of feminism, a feminist book that was directed at men. This is how patriarchy hurts you too. This is why you should be a feminist. This is why you should also be invested in women's plight. And like for a very short period of time, I don't really want to like deny the liberal feminists whatever flowers they are owed. There was a very short period of time, like, right when like social media and Facebook and Tumblr, all of these things were starting out, where like there was this very millennial cringe feminist movement where where guys actually felt like they had to be performatively feminine. Like, that's the word you use for it today.
This is what a feminist looks like.
Exactly. This is what a feminist look like, and then it'll be like a guy like flexing his like massive jacked biceps in the mirror as like, Oh fuck, I kind of missed that a little bit, honestly.
I mean,
Especially given the modern day.
same. I have so many like liberal cringe male friends. Like a lot of guys, a lot of like Gen X liberal guys who I like work with in games are like this. And like I find it kind of charming, but also I'm like, okay, all right.
Yeah, no. This is so funny actually because like I was talking to someone on like Blue Sky like a week or two ago, and she was like, yeah, most Gen Z women, most of my friends were dating millennial guys because like they're less misogynistic than Gen Z guys. And as a millennial woman, I just looked around and I was like, oh my god, that says a lot. Fuck.
Yeah.
But okay. To come back to the track. So like what Hoff Sommers and the men who are her primary audience, because let's be real here, a book like this only gets written when you are writing for men and not women. They have this idea that like, okay, why isn't feminism focusing on the men? Let's ignore all the feminism that does focus on men. Bell Hooks hadn't written The Will to Change yet, okay? So before Bell Hooks saved feminism by including men, why aren't we focusing on men? And like let's even zoom in on that one example. Boys don't cry, boys cannot cry. If a boy cries, that means he's displaying emotions, and that is bad. Let's think about that. Why is a man displaying emotions bad? I mean, I kind of said the answer earlier, so I guess it's not like a
Because
super
it's
mystery.
feminized.
Yeah, because it's feminine. And here's the thing that gets lost. So a woman, a person, not even a woman. Let's not gender this. A person will think themselves perfectly feminist and understanding of the topic when they say, obviously, patriarchy hurts men too. Boys can't cry. Men's emotions are policed. They will say things like that. But then they will sort of miss the core male supremacy that animates those rules, right? Because why are the rules different for men and women? Well, because sex is social, gender is social. Sexual difference has to be enforced. If men act too much like women, if the lines between who are the sires, who get to do the reproductive exploitation, and who are meant to be reproductively exploited, if those lines are blurred, then God, the Catholic Church, and Pope Ratzinger all throw a little fit. Like it all kind of comes back to the base thing. And like I don't want to sound like I am doing a cheat over here. Like aha, even when you talk about men, it's about women, but it's a little bit like that. Because like if you're talking about the harms that like patriarchy perpetuates against us all, if you want to expand the conversation beyond women as like queer theorists and so many academics, even academic feminists like Hoff Sommers, let's take them in good faith. Let's say they've been trying to do that the entire time. Even when you try to talk about the harms of patriarchy against all people, if you forget male supremacy, if you forget the fundamental sort of principle that a woman is the worst thing you can be, and if you're not supposed to be a woman, the worst thing you can be is like a woman, that's when it clicks.
Oh, and being a woman, like even for Christina Hoff Sommers, like being a woman is like the worst thing a woman can be, right? When she says, like, when a woman's feminist consciousness is raised, she learns to identify her personal self with her gender. And it's like, I'm sorry, are we not like gendered like every day by society, by other people? Like what is genuinely does she find so pernicious about, for all that she wants to talk about like saving masculinity, what does she find so pernicious when we talk about our femininity?
She never explains why that's a bad thing. Yeah.
Nope.
Right. Yeah, I like on an academic level, I fully agree with you. I think that like when I talk about like, oh, we need to include men in this, I mean more of like from a tactics perspective. Because in order to get anything done, unfortunately, you do need men to buy in. And like I think that at least on like on a like policy level or something like that, not that we're really like talking about policy, but like I think that like I mean it does, you're right that it does come down to this sort of like fundamental difficulty it is to ever get men to empathize with women in a way that does not include them universally. And I'm not really sure how you get around that.
Well, see, she does bring this up, right? When she's talking about, like, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Seneca Falls, this, that, the other, flaunting her credentials as the last living first wave feminist, right? Like, she says,
Sure.
she says that,
Sometimes
like,
I like to think I'm the last of the first, sorry.
But she says that, like, yeah, back in the day we knew how to talk to men, we knew how to include them, and it's like, okay, like,
Did you?
well, yeah, exactly, because, like, in terms of, like, building a coalition, sure, absolutely, but, like, that rhetoric is, as correct, yes, you're correct in terms of, like, coalition building, but, like, the Christinas Hoff Sommers of the world are always going to take that rhetoric, and the way they twist it is, okay, and that means we need to bring in, like, misogynists, right? That means we need to appeal to patriarchs, right? Talia, the article you're talking about, Susan Bolton, was talking about, yeah, this neighbor of mine who's a misogynist, I don't like the way he talks about women, but what he said about, like, me being unlikable really stuck with me, and it's like, why? Why are you trying to impress this guy, right? And, so we go back to Sommers, right? Talking about, Stanton or whatever, right? You don't see, Christina, you don't see the slightest difference between a movement in which men happen to be present and have the humility to work for their own disempowerment, right? You don't see the difference between that and one that seeks active accommodation to patriarchy.
Yeah.
If she does see the difference, of course, she's deliberately obfuscating it. I've lost interest in assuming that these people aren't always deliberately lying.
Yeah, I mean, like, at a certain point, it doesn't matter if, like, Hoff Sommers is directly lying or not, like, because, like, the thing is that, like, you can tell that, like, she doesn't necessarily have to, right? She is uncomfortable with this. Maybe I shouldn't say the words decenter men, lest an angry horde descend upon us. But that is the kind of thing that she is uncomfortable with. Now, Hoff Sommers herself, she has a philosophy degree, and one of the things that she spends the most time on in this book is, like, railing against the young feminists who want to talk about the epistemic injustice. That was not the words they used. I'm using my big girl words, but Hoff Sommers, decries these young feminists who are railing against the epistemic injustice that women have historically suffered in the canon. And she says that, like, oh, are we just supposed to discard all these old white men? Are we supposed to make quality secondary to gender? Are we supposed to tell women that actually women have been just as prominent throughout history as men have? Even though that it very clearly isn't the case, and women just haven't contributed enough to history. I don't like it either, but, like, you kind of have to, and, like, this is being written in 1994, before, like, standpoint epistemology really caught on, and, like, today we are aware of the biases in history and historiography that actually do downplay the contributions of women. This is a real thing. But, let's say that, like, Christina Hoff Sommers could have never imagined such a thing. But, like, you can see the ideological investment here. Hoff Sommers is, like, of that school of feminists, and I'm not going to deny that they're feminists for a second. Like, I might call them bad feminists, but, like, she is from that school that is like, we should strive to prove ourselves to be as good as men. Not just, like, say that we are like men, but we should prove ourselves as good as men. We should succeed in men's arenas, even if it's stacked against us. Honestly, admitting whether or not it's stacked against women, it varies. But, like, her feminist philosophy, insofar as she has one, is very much be one of the boys. Mm-hmm. And that's where, like, a lot of this is coming from, right?
Repeatedly, yeah, she has the rhetoric of, like, yeah, now we've been uplifted, we can join men in creating a more vibrant culture and whatnot, this, that, the other, right?
Yeah. Throughout my life, I guess, like, that really, like, I totally feel that, because, like, in all of the places that I've sort of, like, gone through in my life to get the things that I've wanted, I've had to kind of become one of the boys. Because of philosophy. I was often the only woman in my philosophy class. It was just me and a bunch of guys. And then in games, it's often me and a bunch of guys. In my last studio studio leadership, like leads and directors, it was just me, one other woman, and just like 20 guys. And it's like, so I don't know if it's, like, defensive or just, like, the more you spend time with people, the more you sort of empathize with them. If I guess you're brought up to have to empathize with other people, the more you kind of start. I don't know how much of it is just, like, me sort of having to fit myself into a certain role in order to, interact with men. Not that you all have to give me therapy in this podcast, but
yeah. See, this is where, like, plug slightly, I guess. This is where, like, trans feminism can be useful because, like, okay, so in terms of being brought up to sympathize with men, or in terms of facing pressure to be one of the boys, I think I have some experience and some
Yeah.
insight in that regard. And the thing about this
Tell
is the
me the
thing that like
secrets.
people, yeah, this is the thing that like people don't really talk about that, right? I think like most cis women are always like very shocked when I talk about this. I'm not 100% sure if I already talked about this on the previous episode, Lenore, but like I might do a little run back. Um, People really underestimate the degrees to which men circle the wagons. The amount of like social cohesion and class or solidarity between men. I mean, it's a little bit like that, but like in sort of like every hegemonic system, every system of bigotry. Like white people have so much more like solidarity among people of their own race when compared to like when there are very tangible benefits that you can protect and a sort of like a socially sanctioned group identifier that you can like affirmatively identify with. People jump onto that, and I will say that like yeah, one of as a trans woman who was brought up to I would call it groomed into manhood, who was like brought up with the aim of grooming me into manhood, as all boys are. The degree to which you face this pressure to not just like empathize with your fellow man more than your fellow woman, but to like not call out the violences that men perpetuate against women, or not even against women, against queers who are a type of woman to cis men, who or those marginalized on the basis of gender and sexuality. Because if you did that, if you called out your fellow bro, if you violated the bro code, then you would very quickly find that you would take the place of the woman you were trying to defend, or you would sort of be slandered alongside her. This was sort of one of the biggest points of tension between like me and the other boys growing up. When they, as teenagers, started to like pick up misogynistic language more and more, parroted, adopted, when they started talking about these girls who had been our classmates and grown up with us, like they were suddenly a different species, like they were lesser, like their only value was their looks and their bodies. I didn't love that, and then I started getting more and more beaten up and molested about it. and and it's a little bit rough, right? Because like this is to like bring it back to what we were talking about earlier. When we talk about how patriarchy harms men or harms boys, which like stuff like Louis Theroux's documentary on the manosphere, or like the show Adolescence, that is the sort of tack that they have taken. What what is inceldom, manosphere? What are these ideologies doing to our young boys? What is this teaching our young boys? And the thing about that is, young boys have always been taught to grow up to be patriarchs. It's just that we have a much more sort of like efficient information delivery mechanism that is like bringing them more and more reactionary and extreme logic quicker and younger. But the thing is that like when people talk about protecting our boys, and like trying to like go back to a time when they like were not being exposed to hardcore pornography and Andrew Tate at the age of 10, they never mean boys like me. They never mean boys like the kind of boy that I was. They don't ever mean the sissies and the faggots and the boys who are going to grow up to be women. What people are saying is, how can we go back to like boys being like less overtly angry and like overtly misogynistic? Well, how can we go back to a more respectable kind of manhood
Why
and
can't we have
patriarchal
gentlemen
fealty?
back?
Hmm.
We need
Yeah.
gentlemen. I hear that a
Mhm.
lot.
Yeah, they frame it entirely as a comms problem, don't they? Without trying to change any of the underlying
Yeah, they
dynamics.
also frame it as like a manners problem. Like,
Mhm.
oh, men just need to get better manners. I'm like, yeah, so you can be a gentleman in public and then go home and beat your wife, like gentlemen have throughout history.
We have a Cheeto in the White House. The
Yeah, I
problem
mean,
is
that to
that
be
we're saying
sure.
the ugly things out loud.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean the
So
problem is that we're saying the ugly things out. They're saying the ugly things out loud, and the problem is that women are calling it out, right? Because everywhere you turn in this book, right, it's always incredible. The, we were talking about this just this morning. These people all write the same way, right? It's always
Mhm.
incredibly slanted. It's always burying the lead, right? She in this text will bring up the most bizarre and horrifying stuff and like write it off as I don't understand why women are so mad about this. Why are people getting mad about like a tradition like every Friday at this elementary school in Montana where all the boys like flip up the girls' skirts, right? Why is this guy so put upon when he makes an off-color remark in his like journalistic like office, and then he goes around apologizing to like every woman for some reason, and then like
Oh,
institutionally,
good for
right?
him.
Yeah, like and the the world doesn't even have to come to a stop. Just institutionally, he's able to get that like he's fined and then able to get that rescinded. Right? There's a professor in here that whose free speech case was ongoing because he had this like weirdly inappropriately horny lecture that he delivered. Just the language of it. And then he gets reinstated after the publication of the book. By the way, with
Which always
yeah.
happens
Mhm,
because like feminism goes too far,
mhm,
and then because men are experiencing consequences, and then it
mhm.
turns out those consequences are a lot more short lived
Nobody ever
Yeah.
than you want them
nobody
to
ever
be.
goes away.
Mhm, mhm.
Mhm. Okay, Aisha and Lenore, do I have permission to take us backwards instead of forwards as we like sort of like try to get to the point of the book? Because
Oh
I
boy, do you?
Absolutely.
Mm.
Go any way, any direction you want. I didn't even read the book.
Oh yeah. I got to the end. Like I was about to say, like nor should anybody. Do not pick up this book. Don't even pirate it like I did.
Mhm. It's just not a good idea, and because the thing is that like so okay. The reason we're going backwards is because Christina Hoff Sommers' book, Who Stole Feminism, written in 1994, is described as a work of post feminism, right? If you go to the Wikipedia article for post feminism, wondering what the fuck is that?
It's
Uh,
feminism that you do by posting.
Yeah, I know. Literally.
obviously, yes.
Sorry,
But
go
yeah,
on.
it is a very prominent example of a post feminist book. And okay, so what exactly is post feminism? It's one of those academic terms that doesn't really have like a really hard and fast definition. And it really depends whether the person using the word means it as a good thing or a bad thing. But it is something that was coined by this writer called Susan Belotti, who wrote for New York Times Magazine in 1982. She wrote this article that was titled "The Voices of the First Post-Feminist Generation," and the reason that I want to go back from 1994 all the way to 1982 and talk about Susan Bolotton's article over here is because it's 1982 and Susan Bolotton is talking to one of her male co-workers who is like, okay, set me up with one of your friends, but make sure she isn't a feminist. And when Susan Bolotton is unimpressed, he laughs at her and says, "You know, women don't really identify as feminists anymore." And so Susan asks herself the question that feminists were asking themselves in the 90s, and the 2000s, and the 2010s, and now those who participate in the feminist blogosphere, like Lindy West, it's their turn now, are getting around to asking the questions. Are we nothing but anomalies of a radical decade? Every decade, feminists are told feminism is over, and we have to ask ourselves: is feminism over? Am I a fuddy duddy? Am I just clinging on to ideals that don't reflect my day and age? Did my assumption that as time goes on we would live in more feminist times, was that faulty? Do the youngsters don't really understand why they need feminism? So Susan Bolotton goes on this personal odyssey. She talks about her own relationship to feminism, and then she goes back to her college and her hometown and talks to the young women of today, the 18 to 23 year olds, the ones who are going to Mount Holyoke, and the ones for whom apparently feminism has fallen out of fashion and fallen out of favor, as feminism is constantly in the process of doing. And they're saying a lot of things to her that are really fascinating to me. For example, she talks to one woman who says, "Well, if I call myself a feminist, that would mean like men would think that I'm a lesbian and I hate men, you know? And that's just a lot of baggage. Like, of course I support the Equal Rights Amendment. It's 1982. You're supposed to support the Equal Rights Amendment. But the thing is that the feminists brought along all these specific issues with it. Like, I wouldn't have any feminism is good. I agree with its goals, but like, did they have to keep talking about lesbian rights? Can't they shut up about lesbian rights?
Mhm.
It's not. It's not. The optics aren't good. It's not very popular. Maybe feminists should shove through this one minority of queer women under the bus.
Mhm.
I
Maybe
are
then.
uncomfortable when it's not about me.
Yeah. Mhm.
And then what else? Okay, now we're talking to Julie Rothman, a 1982 graduate, and Julie Rothman says, for most people, feminism means having a strong sense of yourself as an individual, independent female. I don't identify as a feminist because I give up too much of myself for the man I love. Everything old is new again. We're back here. We're back to my favorite topic. Lenore.
Is sucking dick feminist?
Only if it's a woman's dick.
Is MasterCard my friend? Yeah, you're so right, Lenore. Oh my god, you fucking solved it.
Oh god. But that's it's the same rhetoric, right?
How can I be a feminist if guys won't think I'm not cool?
It's when Sommers says in this text, right, the belief that American women are living in thrall to men seems to suit some women more than others. I have found that it does not suit me. Cool. Good for you, Christina. Right? It's of a piece with everything you bring up, right? This cycle of reaction, right? You see it in the way that she talks about like the gender pay gap, right? And like the how to tell history in a more like equitable way gender wise, right? She says, when she says like, oh, like women and men make different amounts of money because like men go into higher paying fields and women do not, right? And she doesn't interrogate why that is, right? These people never move beyond their initial impulse to correct. They step on a rake, and on the rake is written their own, like, whatever their bias happens to be, right? Because like I want to agree with the idea that, oh, why can't we move forward? Why can't we, why do we keep relitigating all this stuff? Why do we have to keep, fighting over like past stuff, right? And the problem is, like, we are still living in the future of this book, right? Where women are exploited for their labor, for their sexuality, right? Where I cannot attain real womanhood, but cis women can, right? And none of the silliness that Sommers has smoke for in this book, where it even is silliness and where she's not, being a fascist about it, right? You take all that away, patriarchy still exists.
Yeah, because like, okay, so Hoff Sommers, again, taking her in the best faith possible. Maybe she's mistaken about the fact that like white women are having a great time now. Congratulations, ladies, the second wave happened, and now if you are a white girl, you have the power to go out and just like fucking ruin men's lives at whatever college campus you choose to go to. Congratulations, mission accomplished. Hey, what about everybody else? What about the cringe lesbian disabled Jews who said that a feminist conference wasn't accessible enough? Like there's that's the big glaring gap where like Hoff Sommers doesn't even pretend to not have a bias because she just pretends it doesn't exist, and she also is, I think, is relatively sure that the audience, that the people who are going to read her book will agree with her on that front. That like the plight of the more marginalized women don't matter. But also, to be clear, I want to be 100% on this. Patriarchy didn't go away for white women in the 90s either. In America, on college campuses, there was no pocket dimension where patriarchy had been solved for the white woman. And now that we're in the modern day, and Renee Nicole Good got shot in the face 5 times by an ICE agent because of reasons that have a lot to do with gender and misogyny, as much as they have to do with nationalism and fascism.
They shot a white mother in the face. Like,
turns out misogyny might be a thing. Who knew?
Yeah.
Clearly not Christina Hoff Sommers. Oh.
Yeah.
Can I like bring this back to like my one favorite bugbear, even though it might ruffle a few feathers?
No, go ahead.
Go for it.
Okay, so this is why it's hard to be a lesbian. not in the sense of like, okay, like baby's first anti-feminism, like, maybe if we're talking about a teenage boy who is like on the cusp of manhood and like doesn't like the idea that he will be an oppressor or a patriarch, or we're just talking about like anyone who just doesn't find feminism appealing for some reasons that we won't name right now, but we'll get into. There's a lot of like ready arguments that are deployed against feminists, and my favorite one is, um, well, men aren't inherently evil and women aren't inherently good, and it's like, buddy boy, babe, no one knows that women aren't inherently good like a feminist does, and especially a lesbian feminist. Sorry, I'll get on my I'll put on my little fucking dyke separatist hat for a second, because because like if you read the history, if you are interested in feminism and like read deeply and wide, when it comes to feminist scholarship, or try to like piece together how this all works and where we keep failing. The thing we keep failing at is just that like it's what those women said to Susan Bolotin back in 1982. It really is the core of that. If I identify as a feminist, they'll think I'm a dyke. If I identify as a feminist, men will think less of me. And like at the end of the day, as angry as I am and as unhappy as I am, and as much as I am clear-eyed about the fact that I was born into a system that's rigged against me, I want men to love me because I love men, or just I want that respectability. Like I want
Yeah.
wifehood and motherhood. I want the picket fence. I want the boy and girl and the dog and the fucking cat sleeping on the windowsill. And it's just like that siren song of like respectability, which like not coincidentally is a very valorized image in fascist politics. That calls to us, and it calls to us in very different ways, right? Because like it's not just that like systems like hegemonies of like bigotry and exclusion, they're not just built on hate, they're also built on incentives. They also are constantly trying to propagandize and give people reasons to buy in, even if you're not going to benefit as much as the guy, even if you're not going to benefit as much as the people who are privileged more than you can still extract some benefits from this. You can still call the feminists and the dykes and the cringe disabled brown immigrants, you can call them shrill harpies and like be called based mom by a generation of gamers.
Yeah.
And that's the fuck of it. It's like, okay, lesbian feminists can keep talking about how heterosexuality is the thing that sort of keeps coming in the way of feminism, and it's like, well, maybe one day we'll have a proper reckoning with that one.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I mean, I've had experiences where men were kind of like, I discovered at a place I used to work that like this one guy didn't want to talk to me because I seemed like a deranged leftist. And I was like, okay, first of all, I've never spoken to you in my life. You have not seen me in deranged leftist mode. I hadn't even joined this podcast yet. But because I was brown and a lesbian and I was putting gay stuff into the game, he projected this sort of personality onto me that he probably got from YouTube videos or whatever. And I was just like,
the cringe compilation.
Yeah, he projected the cringe compilation on me. And I was like, dog, we've never even talked before.
Mm-hmm.
It's extremely vexing and vile. Because Sommers has this whole chapter toward the end of the book, and this is only I'll be quick about this, but like she has a whole chapter toward the end of the book where like she talks about the myth, supposedly, right, of if you speak up as a woman, you get all kinds of backlash, you're dragged in the media, you're denied opportunities, people call you unattractive, right? She herself in the previous chapter rails against, and these are her words, not mine, the unattractive self-preoccupation of campus feminists who want there to be like institutional remedies to campus rape, right? She herself is calling these people harpies, and yet in the very next chapter, she wants to deny that there is this backlash, right? That there is this, I think she retired her podcast like 4 years ago or so. I think she's retired at this point. She's getting up there, but like somebody in a position of some like cultural intellectual cachet can levy this at you, and not just her, a whole ecosystem of people.
there is just this like, and you see it like every day. You see it with the Democratic lawmakers who covered their ears when Palestinian activists were chanting in front of the DNC. People are like, I am comfortable. I do not want you to threaten that. I have worked hard to come to the place that I have gotten. Stop bothering me. And I feel like that, just like this annoyance against disruption, which I've
Mhm.
noticed is an extremely, I mean, like it's a very bourgeois, like, you know,
Mhm.
I have my place, and as long as nothing, comes for me, and it's kind of, hypocritical for me to say that as an American living in the imperial core, because like that's every day of our lives.
Mhm.
It's like nothing is very little ever happens to us compared to what happens to people in other countries. But like, yeah, there is, I think, this sort of like learned, well, because I have suffered in any way,
Mhm.
I have now, I have gotten a moral like I've cast a moral shield upon myself, and any disruption or people being like, hey, I would like also like a shield, no, please go away. You are harshing my vibe.
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
Mhm. And this brings us back to naturally to the boys who can't cry.
mhm,
It's like I also suffer under patriarchy. There are also things that I can't do in the system of gender. I'm hurt too. And I have people like Based Mom reaching out to pat my hand and tell me, it's okay, baby. I know that men suffer too. But also, men do
yeah,
get privileges for upholding the system that hurts them. And they get that in terms of like being able to extract certain things from women.
Mhm.
And are
yeah,
they willing to give that up? And will they ever be willing to give that up? And do straight women who recognize that they are better positioned in this system of heteronormativity than the shrieking queers and immigrants, will they ever give that up and actually, you know, stop asking who stole feminism from them?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, Martin Luther King was one of the most hated men in America when he died. You know,
yeah,
it's only after the critical moment where the dust has settled, and the critical people have been assassinated by the FBI, that it's both disheartening and also, I don't know, it's heartening and disheartening to know that like there is always going to be, just institutionally, populationally, like so many factors stacked against
yeah.
you as you speak out for marginalized people.
What is the saying? Liberals are against every war except the current
Yep.
one, and
Yep.
they support every cause except the current cause.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because that's disruptive.
One
It's
day
Yeah.
everyone will have
disruptive.
always been against us. And we
Yeah.
just have to
Yeah.
wait until the one day when magically all of these allies that we never knew we had come out of the woodwork.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like, because like I don't know if you know this about me, Talia, but my dad's Palestinian. So
Mm,
I have sort of like the last couple years, I have simultaneously experienced the most support I ever have, and also the worst racism that I have in my life.
I can
But
imagine, yeah.
yeah, so it's really it because it goes to show you like things do and can change. Like people
Mhm.
can flip on a dime, which is basically what has happened re Palestine. Um, at least like people's perspective, how much it has actually helped the people of Palestine, I think that we can we can talk about at a different time. But like so things do change, and we have seen change, and we will see change. But it is so, like you said, it is so frustrating while
Yeah.
we have like the like we all have to kind of live in this world together,
Mhm.
in a way where we all sort of are, all of our wants and needs all sort of bash up against each other, and it's a very hard needle to thread.
I think honestly, I think that is like the source of leftist insanity. If I can say that, because like you see this evidence that like stuff has changed, and like as recently as like 2018, 2019, I'm trying to remember like my own experience with this more from the periphery, but I do remember that there was like a very clear moment that switched where like saying this issue is too complicated to talk about just wouldn't fly anymore
Mm-hmm.
for whatever reason. And it's like and as like an intellectual and a writer and like as a leftist and so and someone who cares about the why of things, I have to ask what changed, what was the critical moment, what did it, and I don't fucking know. And I guess like maybe there's an answer that's being like kept from us by like the bourgeois capitalist hegemony, or more terrifyingly, maybe we live in a very chaotic and fickle world filled with very chaotic and fickle people, and there's no real formula, and we're always just going to keep doing this until, and it's not going to work until it does. And isn't that terrifying?
Mm-hmm. Well, we've gotten pretty heavy on here, and I want to pull it around to something a little more lighthearted. Not lighthearted in the sense that it's like good or particularly funny. It is funny, but just a little more overtly goofy, right? Like one of the, as long as we're on the subject of like the privileges that men enjoy under patriarchy, like one of them, right? Plausible deniability, right? And this is something that that she's very concerned with here. She has a lot to say about who gets to be objective and who doesn't, right? Who is afforded the benefit of the doubt when speaking and who doesn't. Obviously, right? Who doesn't get the benefit of the doubt, right? Women academics who are talking about, being figuratively lynched, raped. Like, obviously, they're not saying that this is literally happening to them, right? But just like publicly, they risk, the backlash that Sommers, denies later on, right? What she's saying here, page 98, yeah. The blur, so too is there a difference between education and propaganda. The economist Thomas Sowell, again, rogues gallery here,
Oh,
notes
good lord.
the statement, all teaching is political, is trivially true, in just the same way the statement, Abraham Lincoln and Adolf Hitler were both imperfect human beings is true. Don't ask Lincoln what he thought about Native Americans, but, to continue. The blurring of vital distinctions is a mark of ideology or immaturity. We could be more tolerant of the pronouncement that in some sense all courses are political if campus feminists were prepared to acknowledge the vital difference between courses taught in a disinterested manner and those taught to promote an ideology. But that is precisely what so many deny, right? And this comes on the heels of throughout, again, as we touched on before, like this comes on the heels of so many bizarre and misogynistic and harassing behaviors that Sommers says, okay, but was that really misogynistic? Did that person really hold a hatred for women in their head when they made this off-color comment, right? Like, is it so like what if slavery were taught in a disinterested manner, right? What if U.S. imperialism were taught in a disinterested manner, which it is if you take international relations as your major. This is where you get into ideas like I'm not racist because I'm not using slurs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's this obsession that libertarians have more broadly with debate as the highest form of consciousness, regardless of content, right?
All that matters is that we just keep talking about stuff.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's like definitely the most like academic poisoned passage in the book.
Yes.
You need to be disaffected and disinterested, and you need to have objectivity, which is a thing it is both totally natural to want and possible to achieve when you are a person embedded in social systems. I don't know. I'm very standpoint epistemology build, and Hoff Sommers very clearly isn't. And the thing that also did stand out to me the most there was that like, okay, so feminists are gonna like make mistakes. They're gonna like say cringe things, sure, but like let's not just like say like okay, they're only gonna be cringe. Like some of those like female white affluent academics that Christina Hoff Sommers criticized, they said things worth criticizing.
Yeah.
Comparing like your treatment, even if you were like mistreated by the uni admin, but like comparing that to lynching,
Yes,
appropriating
absolutely.
struggles that aren't your own,
Yeah, no, rhetorically, that is highly gauche. I do agree.
Yeah, and like
but that's not the ground she's criticizing it on.
Exactly, because like the critique I'm making is too woke for Hoff Sommers,
Yes.
but like there's also some truth to the fact like so sort of in a similar way to how there is a degree of like male grievance caused by feminism, quote unquote, caused by feminism, that like anti-feminists like Hoff Sommers are happy to exploit. There will be missteps made by people who call themselves feminists, who are feminists, who are prominent feminists even, and they will seize upon that, and they will be like, "Look, she said a thing that is bad. Now toss her to the wolves, and your entire movement is illegitimate." That's how
There,
you
there,
work, right?
there's like a quarter of this book devoted to like I think like specific chapters like devoted to takedowns of like mediocre scholarship, surveys that were not like written correctly, and sure, absolutely. Stuff does catch on in media that is not properly like sussed out, that is, that obfuscates like the actual degree of like a problem or whatever. But like again, like the way that she goes about defending these things and taking down these things, right? I mean, what you say first of all absolutely is absolutely correct. Like, there is, I kept coming back to your Mishfest episode on Cracked Ivory. Like, there is a certain degree of like white women playing pretend, right? Well off white women
Yeah.
playing pretend that she does take to task here. But again, not on those grounds, right? Because it's not a class problem she's pointing out. It's not an affluence problem she's pointing out. It's a problem with feminism qua feminism, right? Like, how has this gone wrong? Oh, it's gone wrong. I'm only listening to like these particular, people.
Mhm.
And there is that.
It's a problem I keep seeing over and over again in these tendencies.
Yes.
You see the loud feminists are all white.
Mhm,
Therefore, ignore all feminism.
mhm,
The feminists are too bourgeois. Ignore all feminism. The feminists are too something, too shrill, too homophobic,
mhm,
too transphobic. And like these are not things that are false. Like I'm sitting here as a brown trans woman and I'm
mhm,
telling you that like I can critique feminists and feminist movements better than a lot of people can, and I can do it more viciously than a lot of people are inclined to.
mhm,
But the conclusion that the anti feminist wants us to draw from all of this is that if feminism is flawed, then that means it is illegitimate. And this is a
mhm,
thing that this is a standard that is, let's be fair, it's applied to a lot of things. It's applied to communism. It's applied to leftism as a whole. It's applied to anti-racism. You know, but
Yeah.
we need to. How do we get better at like seeing that tactic for what it is?
mhm.
I mean, there's a reason why when you fail a rhetoric check in Disco Elysium, the question you come up with is, are women bourgeois? Like,
Mhm.
it always comes down to, are women bourgeois?
Oh, we're champagne feminists, don't you know?
Yeah. I mean, that is also like a thing. Like the art is like when people are like, "Oh, is trans about bourgeois ideology?" Because like you need things to be trans. I'm like, I
Mhm.
don't know. Is doing like
Is disability bourgeois?
yeah, is
Oh
disability
my
bourgeois?
Is
god.
Like
chronic
if you
illness bourgeois? Right?
right is it having a non-normative body bourgeois? Like is taking Advil bourgeois?
Is living in an underdeveloped country that requires so much more investment to get back to like a baseline because of centuries of exploitation, colonial exploitation? Is that in fact bourgeois?
Yeah,
Like you can
we
Okay,
just don't
okay.
know.
You know what this is?
Mhm,
You know what this is? This is actually kind of a flip side. I talked about how like this is the source of left wing insanity
yeah.
earlier. I
Mhm.
think this is the source of right wing insanity. Because
Yes.
like what like the conservative really wants to believe is that they're already on the right side. That like
Mhm.
their comfortable life is a righteous one, and that they
Mhm.
don't have to change anything
Yeah.
about the systems that enjoy about the systems that benefit them. And honestly, deep down, everyone is like them, like the
Mhm,
silent majority. Don't you know? Like, oh, there's a bunch of like loud and shrill people saying we need to change things, but like most reasonable and sane people agree with me. And honestly, if I go out and if I show those loud and shrill people that actually they're not that different, we're not so different, you and I, then obviously they will have no choice but to pack up and go home and to end feminism forever.
mhm.
Yeah.
And
I
they keep
totally
trying to do this.
It's the gotcha that like, oh yeah, like the first wave, some of the first wave feminists were eugenicists, right? Okay, that's an America problem, not a feminist problem.
yeah, I agree with you like that so much of right-wing ideology is like it is morally just that I have taken all of these things for myself and that others do not have as much as me. That is morally justified. They don't want to live down in the dirt with the rest of us where everything is kind of morally like the moral relativism of
Mhm.
like of where you were born and like the circumstances in which you grew up. They can't face that because it means that they don't inherently deserve the things that they have.
Yeah, and it's like a fascinating dichotomy, isn't it? Like at the same time, they want the mandate of heaven. They want to be like, oh, I am just a regular old Joe who you can grab a beer with, and I speak for the everyman. But also, what do they really think of the masses? What do they really think of the everyman, the unwashed masses who are way more bigoted than the sophisticated elites could ever be?
Mhm.
It's like it's interesting. I don't know how they square that circle themselves. I don't understand conservatives.
Well, you see how Trump talks about his supporters. He thinks they're he thinks they're swine. He thinks they're pigs.
Mhm.
He's like, he just thinks they're disgusting.
And I think I will say that is one thing in like leftists and progressives that I will agree probably annoys people like this. It's our tone.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We think we're people, and not in the way where we think we're better than everyone. I mean, I'm speaking very generally. Obviously, some of us are twats, but like specifically in the way where we're like, you're not better than me. I'm not better than you. Like we should all be on the same level. And there's a certain kind of mindset that is very common in conservative politics, and that deeply clings onto and believes in hierarchy that just cannot countenance that in the slightest. They have to speak for everyone, but also they have to be special.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think that there's like sort of like to a normal person, not that there's any such thing as normal people, but you know what I mean? Like, I think that there is a level of insincerity that people can sometimes get from leftists when we say that like we care about equality, we don't care like about like people are like, but do you really not see like I think that there is a level of like, don't bullshit me that people sort of apply to communists.
Mhm.
You're vegan, but do you know how many animals and immigrants are harmed in farming? You still eat the vegetables that were
Yeah.
made with the same farming tools that my it's is this like really, I don't know if it's like a zero something or if it's just this like overwhelming fear of like, I have to prove that these radicals are actually on the same level as me.
Right. Well, it's also
How
like this
dare.
idea of like when you see somebody who has a principle, that is like if you don't have a strong sense of self, that is like accusative to you. It's like when
Yeah.
people come when like during the beginning of well not the beginning, but the sort of like public awareness of BDS over the last few years when people were like but I need to have my Starbucks, and they would like come on.
Mhm. Mhm.
But like they can't drink Starbucks quietly, right? And there were a lot of people who drank Starbucks quietly.
Mhm.
That in the affirmation.
Yes. This is what I mean. Harry Potter is back in the consciousness, of course, because the god awful trailer for the HBO show just dropped, right, with Nick Frost and a fake beard or whatever, right? And like it's this. You're exactly right, Aisha. Right, this perverse desire to have your interests validated, right?
Mhm.
Like I have to be, I have to be one of the good ones, right? I have to be able to go out. I have to fucking wear my like Slitherpuff shirt or whatever, right? And I have to rep this and not not own the consequences of supporting this shit. Not own the consequences of like repping this brand, right? I'm a fucking like Lovecraft fan, right? I have a yellow scientist. It's Robert W. Chambers was the King of Yellow, but whatever, right? I'm a
Yeah.
Lovecraft fan. Like
Oh, Lenore, we have to talk about The King in Yellow because I also love that
I
book.
fucking love, yeah, The Repair of Reputation is one of my favorite short stories. But yeah, like whenever I bring up Lovecraft, what's the first thing people say? Wasn't he a white?
Oh, he was a racist.
Yeah,
Don't you know he was racist?
they should say that, right? Like
The first no. The first thing they should say is, did you know he was terrified of air conditioners? Because that shit is so funny.
cool air, yes.
Did you know he was racist to the Welsh? Holy shit.
Oh
My man
God.
was so racist that if he saw an Italian, he would like curl up and cry.
There's a hilarious poem that he wrote called Providence 2000 AD, which is just like it's nativist dreck, but right. It's about a guy going home to like Providence, Rhode Island, and like it's completely been taken over, like divided into like quarters by like various like immigrants from, and again, not just like brown people, not just Chinese people or whatever, right? Like it's like Swedes come in for like Poles, like it's the weirdest, most specific, like these people haven't been accorded whiteness yet, right? And you can't help but read it and laugh. You can't help but read something like The Street and laugh, right? Which is about like minorities meeting in like the basement of a building to plot the downfall of the republic or whatever, and then the building collapses on them because like American architecture saves the day, right? It is beneath the philosophies of these reactionaries is always the most hilariously facile anxiety you can possibly imagine, and it would be so funny if it didn't result in genocide.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
God, people got mad at me. People got mad at me for my post that I made about the Harry Potter show.
Good
the
Lord.
one where I was like, I ain't watching that. The only reason to watch an HBO show is for sucking and fucking. And there's not going to be any sucking and fucking in that shit. People were mad at me about that.
Yeah, and that's why all of these like reactionary grades sound the same, right? Because like when you really drill down to it to its essence, it's the drill tweet. I'm not mad. I'm not mad while I shrink into a corn cob. Like I'm not wrong. You're
not
not any
owned.
better than I am.
It's that, and like there's no difference between good and bad things, you moron, you fucking idiot, right?
God, I think about that all the time. Literally, like every argument that people were making about Israel and Palestine was like, there's like when they were like, could you, what if people were chanting no black people? I was like, yeah, that would be bad. It would be bad to do that.
Okay, do you know what my favorite passage in this book is? Like, I'll and we're kind of running up on time here, but like I want to cap it off with this because it sums up the Sommers ethos, the libertarian ethos, the equity feminist ethos, the reactionary ethos, right? So succinctly, right? At the Austin conference, my sister and I attended a packed workshop called White Male Hostility in the Feminist Classroom, led by two female assistant professors from the State University of New York at Plattsburgh. What to do about young men who refuse to use gender-neutral pronouns? Most agree that the instructor should grade them down. First of all,
kill them.
Well, yes, exactly. Like that's the thing. Like it's not even. She doesn't even have the rhetorical sauce to like structure this in a way that's like legible at first, right?
Also, I'm like, girl, why are you going to this? What? This is just gonna piss you off.
She seeks them out.
Yeah,
she does.
Why
this.
are you
She
going?
seeks them out.
Well, and as well, like I at first, like I'm reading this and I'm like, what do you mean refusing to use gender neutral pronouns? Does she want all the guys to be NBs? Like, or on a second read, like more likely, this is about somebody meeting somebody who uses like they them or other pronouns and like refusing to respect somebody's identity. Which, okay, obviously you punish somebody if they're being deliberately disrespectful, right? But she goes on. One of the Plattsburghers told us about a male student who had baited her, in scare quotes, when she had defended a 15-year-old's right to have an abortion without parental consent. The student had asked, what about a 15-year-old that wanted to marry a 30-year-old? She referred to this as a trap. In philosophy, it is known as a legitimate counterexample to be treated seriously and dealt with by counter-argument. But she wanted to know what advice we had to offer. The agreed-upon remedy was to say to this misguided young man, I'm trying to figure out why you were asking this kind of question.
So there's no difference between good things and bad things, we're learning.
It only takes 90 pages, 1/3 of the page count. It only takes 90 pages for her to get around to what if the child consents.
What if the child consents? Fuck.
And that is these people in a nutshell. My God.
If I give teenagers the right to their own bodily autonomy, they should also have the right to be groomed and sold off to adults who will exploit them. Mm-hmm. I am very libertarian.
Yeah. The right to get an abortion is also the right to marry your neighbor that's thrice your age or whatever. Fuck off.
Good luck. Do you think we could solve this if we just let these people pretend that they were cool? Like, okay, based mom, you are a cool girl. Can you shut the fuck up about feminism forever now?
Well, the problem is we tried putting all these people on an island, and look what happened.
Oh my God, that's so dumb. Okay, perfect note to end on.
Well, Talia, thank you once again. It had been a while on our show since we'd read something truly, truly odious. So, of course, it's a pleasure to unpack it once we get through the the thorny, brambly journey of trudging through this text. Aisha, I'm so jealous of you.
Yeah, I love to just not do the work. Oh, it's so awesome.
Thank you for letting me be a bad influence on y'all, because to the chagrin of my partners and my friends, I like reading odious stuff a lot. Maybe I'll kick the habit one day.
No, it's, well, and that's the thing. Like, you don't even need to, as it happens, you don't even need to devote too serious like attention to like a polemic like this, because as we said, it's the same thing every fucking time. Go back to our Yukio Mishima like Confessions of a Mask episode, right? These people are, you know, if he were alive today, he'd be posting on fucking 4chan, you know? But speaking of posting, Talia, what do you got? What do you got in the pipeline right now? What are you working on? What do you want? What do you want to plug?
So currently, I am about 2/3 done writing Estro Junkies, my fiction book that will be released on May 24th. And my last nonfiction book, Brown Trans Les, is still out for purchase. If you liked any of the feminist rambles that I went on over this episode, feel free to pick that up. And you can find all my stuff at taliabhatt.com. One nice one-stop shop.
Oh yeah, we will put that in the show notes. Yeah. Wonderful.
It was so great to meet you, Talia. I'm so glad that you came on my side of the podcast.
It was wonderful to meet you. This was like a great experience. Once again, apologies for bringing y'all premium trash.
Oh no, we love trash. Usually I love to eat trash. This hit me on the combination of like work and trying to do my taxes and realizing how much fucking money I owe this government, which is makes me want to walk into traffic.
Yeah. I would at least say that, like, Nora's completely right. At the end of the day, they're really all saying the same thing, and it's kind of infuriating how influential they are, despite the complete lack of originality.
Everybody is like, okay, these are the two influences. These are the two things that right wingers are fundamentally have in the bottom of their soul. One, it is morally right that I have more things than you, and it should be illegal for you to get mad at me. Mm-hmm. Those are the two things that they believe.
Well, if you leave with only one thing in your heart, listeners, get mad, stay mad, and find other people who are also mad.
Have an anger session, just to piss this lady off.
Yes.
And if you find those four-stiking basements in Mount Holyoke or wherever else, please send me an email. Thank you.
Same. All right. Good night, y'all. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Soaking up all the rhythm, all that will allow.